All right. So last part of third chapter, creating the right job. तो अभी तक हमारे कीवर्ड्स या की लर्निंग्स क्या रही हैं सोफा? कोई बताना चाहेंगे? वैशाली जी।
हाँ भाई जी, जैसे कि कल हमने बात की थी लीवरेजिंग कोर कॉम्पिटेंसीज, ऑटोनॉमी और
ऑटोनॉमी,
कांस्टेंट चैलेंज।
कांस्टेंट
ये
चैलेंज।
तीनों बातें बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट है।
हाँ, दो बातें और थी उसमें।
और
फ्लो स्टेट
हाँ, फ्लो स्टेट भी था, राइट।
एंड एब्जॉर्प्शन।
हाँ, ब्लिस एंड एब्सॉर्प्शन।
यस। ठीक है जी, तो हु वुड लाइक टू रीड टुडे फ्रॉम हियर, क्रिएटिंग द राइट जॉब? ओके, लेट मी
नेहा
स्टार्ट।
जी आ रहे हैं ना भाई जी?
हाँ, फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ में पढ़ता हूँ जब तक।
Can I read?
अरे सर, क्या बात है, बिल्कुल।
After a long time, I'm attending your session.
जी जी, वेलकम बैक।
Okay, let's continue. So, while I believe that there is some truth in the statement, do what you love and the money will follow, or at least you'll feel better about the money you have, I do want to clear up one misconception many people have about landing the right job. You are highly unlikely to find your dream job by hunting through online job postings. It's not a problem with the medium. You are also highly unlikely to find your dream job by reading flyers or telephone polls, by sending your resume to recruiters, or working with headhunters, or even by networking until you have passed out all 5,000 of those snazzy business cards you ordered. It's like the scene of Being John Malkovich when Craig diligently scans the classifieds looking for puppeteers. Puppeteers. The audience titters. We know he is not going to find it, just as Sylvia Earle did not find the job of ocean explorer, author, conservationist, submarine entrepreneur in the New York Times. And yet, how many of us think our perfect job would be listed in a similar fashion? The truth is that any existing job description has been conceived of by someone else. Expecting someone else to have conceived of your perfect job is roughly similar to expecting someone else to read your mind. It's better to build your career with the idea that you will always be responsible for creating the right job for each stage of your life, whether you work for someone else or on your own. While a growing number of people are choosing the latter, either permanently or at some stage in their careers, the former is more possible than many people think. Yes, you can change a job description and working conditions in a million ways that will get you closer to the right job. It doesn't necessarily matter what you were hired for. Fundamentally, most employers want you to make more money for them, or bring more attention to your enterprise, or post better results than your stakeholders anticipate, or whatever the currency of your profession happens to be. But don't fool yourself. It often comes back to money somehow. If you are an administrator in HR and start staging puppet shows that make all the employees in the regional offices weep with delight, pledge eternal loyalty to your corporation, and hence attrition falls by 25%, what manager with half a brain wouldn't let you keep doing that? And an entrepreneurial mindset can get you a long way towards creating the right job in a way that makes everyone happy. If you think hard enough, there is bound to be some way you can spend the working chunk of your 168 hours solving your organization's problem in a way that aligns neatly with what you want out of the job. For instance, another of those Westinghouse finalists, Craig Destler, is currently a paleontology professor at the University of New Orleans. He studies dinosaur fossils, which isn't what the University of New Orleans hired him to do. He came in as an expert in echinoderms, which are a class of creatures that include starfish. Then he realized that dinosaur fossils were where the fun was and had to figure out how to become a dinosaur expert in the roughly 5 to 7 years most universities give you to make tenure. This is difficult in the science because most universities expect you to obtain outside funding for your research, and the usual grant making bodies tend to require a track record in a subject which he didn't have. So Dessler decided to finance his own dinosaur research and expeditions by starting a program that had lay people pay to tag along and do the grunt work of digging for dinosaur bones. Many found this to be an exciting way to spend their vacations. He compares this to Tom Sawyer getting people to whitewash his fence. He also notes that he's not sure he could get the university to approve such a program these days, given the unclear flow of liability, among other things. But it worked at the time, and the net result was that Dessler got his specimens, financed his research and the training of his students, and was able to publish enough papers on his findings to attract grants and attention. He got tenure as a dinosaur expert in due time. So, if you like something enough, you'll find a job in an organization that you think will be flexible and open to your talents. And then you will figure out a way to concord your dream job within it. Remembering that it is often easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. Exciting.
Very interesting.
Or you'll design such an organization yourself,
Wow.
which is my approach and one that is increasingly common in the American economy. Here in New York City, according to numbers that the comptroller's office shared with me, there were 807,750 self-employed workers in 2006. This was about a fifth of the roughly 4 million non-governmental jobs in the city at the time. Of the 773,000 jobs that Gotham added from 1981 to 2006, a stunning 491,000 were people working for themselves. That made self-employment the biggest source of job creation in the city during those generally fat years. Amazing. The same trend seems to be playing out across the country, though the numbers can be slippery thanks to varying definitions of self-employment, people who hold multiple jobs, off the books work, and other factors. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says that national self-employment rate, the proportion of total employment made up of the self-employed, has hovered between 7 and 9% since 1970s. But according to the Census Bureau, the number of non-employer businesses, that is 1% shops, rose from 14.4 million to 1997 to 21.7 million in 2007, over 10 years. It's almost a 50% jump. The US Small Business Administration reports that the country had 4.5 million businesses with fewer than 4 employees in 2005. The owners of these businesses have much in common with true solo workers. There's a lot of people calling themselves boss, around 25 million in the 125 million strong US private workforce. Wow, it's almost like 20%. And that was a few years ago. More recent queries on whether people consider themselves free agents produce a slightly higher rate. According to Kelly Services, the temp agency and staffing company, a full 26% of the workforce called themselves free agents in 2009, compared with 19% in 2006. Wow, great revelations. Okay, anybody else would like to join?
So, would you like to share your reflection on this meanwhile?
यार सिंपल बात ये है कि अगर कुछ करना है तो करो, किसी और के लिए वेट मत करो. You know, yeah, like if you want to say have a egg poach and you don't find somebody to do it for you, you just give it a shot on your own. So some way you will learn how to do it the smart way within a few days, within a few attempts. Because life, there's this famous quote that time and tide waits for none. You just add life to it. So
हम्म,
time, tide, and life waits for none. अगर भूकंप अभी होना है तो हो जाएगा, यू कैन नॉट स्टॉप इट. और अगर बारिश होना है तो हो जाएगा, यू कैन स्टॉप इट.
जो हो रही है अभी
टांग टूटना है तो टूटेगा, यू कैन स्टॉप इट. एक्सीडेंट होना तो होगा. बट इमेजिन that how come a simple thing like accidents created a new industry called insurance and accident insurance.
हम्म,
है ना. किसी ने देखा यार एक्सीडेंट से भी पैसा कमा सकते हैं, हॉस्पिटल पैसा कमा रहे हैं. How about creating a system such that I can make money even when people do not get accident, but they pay me because they're scared? How about create that scarcity of funds when you got an accident, when you meet an accident, और उस scarcity से scare create करो, so that people will feel चलो छोटा सा ही तो अमाउंट है, दे देते हैं, कभी एक्सीडेंट होगा तो फैमिली को इतना पैसा तो मिल ही जाएगा. And that's how this industry, this insurance industry, it all came up with such experiences. This, in fact, this general insurance industry, it is just an outcome of that. And you won't believe India में insurance कैसे बिकता है. See, though I am not an insurance agent, but I have studied this industry a lot. Insurance India में कैसे बिकता है जानते हैं?
कैसे?
इंडिया में इंश्योरेंस बेचना शुरू किया लाइफ इंश्योरेंस कॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ इंडिया एज अ सेविंग्स प्रोडक्ट, कि आप इतना पैसा हर साल डालो और अगर आप जिंदा रहे तो आपको इतना पैसा वापस मिलेगा. उस हर साल को उन्होंने क्या किया, पहले आधा साल कर दिया, like every 6 months, then they converted into a quarterly payment, and eventually they converted into a monthly EMI, monthly installment of premium, monthly premium. गरीब से गरीब लोग भी खरीद सकते हैं. And so these people, they are not buying insurance for saving their family, they are buying insurance as a product that will going to make money, whereas insurance is not for savings.
हम्म,
Term insurance में क्या होता है, you just invest, say for example, if you are say 18 years or 20 years young, you just invest an amount of 10,000 for a 1 crore investment, 1 crore insurance. So if something happens to you, your family will get 1 crore.
हम्म,
But क्या है कि वो 10,000 आपका गया एक साल में अगर आप जिंदा रहे तो. So that way insurance was a very difficult product to sell in India. So what they did, they said ऐसा करते हैं, आप वही 10,000 दो, अगर आप जिंदा रहे 20 साल तो हम आपको 2 लाख रुपए वापस करेंगे. Kind of thing, with some savings and 6% profit and all that. And that's how they started selling insurance. So insurance India में अभी भी वैसे ही बिकता है till date.
यस. अच्छा, जैसे इसमें बात हो रही थी क्रिएटिंग राइट जॉब, तो शायद इसमें मुझे लगा ऐसे भी वो कह रहे थे कि आप जहाँ भी जॉब करते हो, जो भी जॉब करते हो, वहाँ पे भी ये स्कोप है कि यू कैन डू समथिंग ऑफ योर इंक्लिनेशन, योर इंटरेस्ट.
Hmm.
You can convince your boss, yeah, someone else, because eventually they are concerned with money, which eventually you will help them to make.
Very true.
तो ऐसे ही मुझे एक याद आता है, वैसे मैं कंपनी का नाम तो नहीं लूँगा, छोड़ छोड़ के जहाँ से आए हैं. तो सोशल साइंसेज का वहाँ पे प्रोफाइल था, एसएमई, सब्जेक्ट मैटर एक्सपर्ट. तो जब मैंने ज्वाइन किया तो वहाँ पॉलिटिकल साइंस पे काम हो रहा था, और फिर ज्योग्राफी हिस्ट्री पे भी थोड़ा होने लगा. मेरा इंटरेस्ट साइकोलॉजी में था, जैसे मेरा बैकग्राउंड था. तो मैंने कहा, वाई आर नॉट वी क्रिएटिंग कंटेंट फॉर साइकोलॉजी. तो हम दुबई पब्लिक स्कूल वगैरह के लिए क्रिएट करते थे, दुबई के स्कूल्स थे. तो वो कहते थे कि डिमांड नहीं है वहाँ पे अभी. मैंने कहा, पूछो ना, ट्राई करो ना. तो करते 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 बात हो गई कि साइकोलॉजी का क्रिएट हो गया, कि अब हम फॉर 2 years वी विल क्रिएट कंटेंट फॉर साइकोलॉजी ऑल्सो. एंड दैट्स व्हाट क्रिएटिंग द राइट जॉब, और द राइट एलिमेंट्स इन द जॉब. तो उसका बहुत बेनिफिट हुआ, जो जिसका फल अभी डायरेक्टली.
Very true. आप देखो ना ब्रह्मा कुमारी कैसे डेवलप हुआ. The entire history of Brahma Kumari is an outcome of this chapter.
हम्म.
If you
कैसे?
just go back to the history, आप देखो यही हुआ.
हम्म.
Some new idea came up, they started implementing it, and a new wing got discovered. A new set of activities got discovered, and देखते देखते आज सारा दुनिया में फैल गया.
राइट.
With the same system being applicable all over the world, in all these 183 countries.
यस. So yesterday only, or 2 days ago, we got a call from Delhi. There is a group of delegates coming from Europe, Australia, Canada, from lot many nationalities. So there is a hotel in Agra, Radisson. Radisson बहुत सारी जगह वैसे नोएडा में भी है. So they were calling for a program around meditation and some spiritual experience for them. So we are planning for that right now. 40 people coming to visit Taj Mahal and also to want to have some experience of meditation in Radisson only. So yes, this is happening. So everybody who is interested in spirituality, they are creating right jobs, या right opportunities. तो अच्छा है, ऐसे हो रहा है. ठीक है जी, आगे बढ़ते हैं. इसमें जी आप पढ़ेंगे. देयर आर मैनी रीजंस.
हाँ. There are many reasons, good and bad, for this rise. Corporations focused on their core competencies outsource almost everything else these days, which creates space for small PR firms, conference planners, freelance report writers, and the like. Part of this is to avoid the payroll expense of tax and benefits, and part is because smaller firms and individuals can be more nimble. वैसे nimble का means agile, I think.
Okay. And those who are wondering what is Agile?
I'm just guessing. Probably I had heard. तो तितिर जी आप अगर आपने नहीं यूज किया तो you can use.
Yes, for those who are wondering why we are focusing on these words, we have a daily challenge of sharing and finding a new word, new term, and everyone has to share in the group coaching group. So we have an eye for new terms now.
Yes. Contracting with them gives firms a flexibility that they can't have when they maintain a high headcount. Of course, many people wind up self-employed not entirely by choice. One of the reasons the Kelly Services figure jumped 7 percentage points in 3 years is that the US unemployment rate also spiked during this time. Even if broadly economists report that self-employment is not particularly counter-cyclical. That is, people don't choose to work for themselves just because they can't get other jobs. For many people, going solo is about push and pull factors. Mark Matsumoto, for instance, always loved to cook. As a kid, he baked his own birthday cakes. In early 2008,
एक मिनट इसमें थोड़ा डिस्कस कर लें. फॉर मैनी पीपल गोइंग सोलो इज अबाउट पुश एंड पुल फैक्टर्स. कैसे तो हम इंटरप्रेट कर सकते हैं?
pushed by situations, circumstances, and then pulled by their own, intention, purpose of life.
मतलब
It is.
जॉब छोड़ना पड़ता है वो पुश फैक्टर है, जो जॉब
Okay.
है वो पुल फैक्टर है.
हाँ.
ऐसे ही होता है. So we are
अपना
coaching
पैशन.
pull factor.
सॉरी, आप बोलिए.
We are becoming, or we are coach, or we are on the path of becoming those who are. So this is by push factor or pull factor?
Pull factor.
Pull factor, definitely. Yes.
Yeah. Mark Matsumoto, for instance, always loved to cook. As a kid, he baked his own birthday cakes. In early 2008, this New York City resident started a blog at norecipes.com to celebrate freestyle culinary arts. But he didn't have much energy to cook or blog because, as the head of marketing at a finance related startup, he was having trouble planning his schedule to give himself concentrated blocks of free time. He could shop for groceries and experiment in the kitchen only on weekends. Until December 2008, that is. Shortly before Christmas, his employer failed to secure another round of venture capital, and Matsumoto joined the millions of Americans who lost their jobs since the recession's onset. It could have been a crisis, but instead, Matsumoto chose to view it as an opportunity for a career change. He drummed up enough consulting gigs to pay the bills. Then he threw himself into building his dream job as a food personality. Now he spends his weekdays perusing farmers markets, cooking dishes such as karage, Japanese fried chicken, and using his marketing skills to lure 100,000 unique visitors to his site each month. Becoming a free agent was a bit of a forced move, he says, but now that I am doing it, I actually kind of like it. I wonder why I didn't do it sooner. If this isn't a career book, then it definitely isn't a guide to starting a business. One thing to keep in mind is that the entrepreneurship need not mean borrowing huge sums of money to start a high tech giant. Many business owners are lifestyle entrepreneurs, meaning they work solo or try to invent the company that they would like to work for, says Susan Sobot, president of American Express, the division devoted to business owners. Okay. In my previous book, Grind Hopping, I told young entrepreneurs to ask 3 questions. What do I love so much I would do it for free? How can I get someone to pay me to do that? And if there is no obvious job title in an organization, doing what I love, and often there isn't, what's a low cost way I could start a business doing that and get the cash register ringing quickly? ये जैसे इकिगाई में भी इस तरह के क्वेश्चंस है ना कि what would you do that even without any money you will be able to do.
उसमें एक क्वेश्चन और है जैसे कि व्हाट यू आर गुड एट, मतलब इसमें होना भी जरूरी है, क्योंकि हो सकता है मुझे वो करना पसंद हो, कोई पैसे भी देने को तैयार हो, लेकिन मैं अच्छा नहीं हूँ, तो फिर सस्टेनेबल नहीं है वो।
None of this is easy, of course. As Sobot notes, while many people start businesses to escape the corporate grind, none of them spend less time working zero. Oh, sorry, working. None of them spend less time working. Zero. It's not about changing how many of your 168 hours you work. It is about changing how much control you have over them. With self-employment, you may invent your dream gig doing what you love, as Matsumoto is doing, or you may simply change the love what you do part of the equation. But if this ups the autonomy and challenge factor, this may be okay too. Julie Pickens and Minde Done, Oregon-based creators of Boogie Vibes, a line of saline-infused kids tissue, are examples of the latter. Latter is what? If it ups the autonomy and challenge factor. Okay. A few years ago, हाँ जी आप कुछ बोल रहे हैं?
आई मे बी शायद
Okay. A few years ago, Donnie was having a beastly time cleaning up the caked on mess of snot caused by one of her children's scolds. She threw some of the saline from a nose spray on a tissue and had an epiphany. She knew Pickens, also a mom of young kids professionally, and since both were between businesses, they decided to launch Little Busybodies Inc. to sell Boogie Vibes in 2007. While they love the stuff of consumer goods marketing and like making a product that's helpful to parents, I didn't get the impression from talking to them that they dreamed of tissues as kids like Sylvia Earle had dreamed of waves. So we are talking about different entrepreneurs या business जो शुरू करते हैं from job now coming to entrepreneurship. तो when there is autonomy और challenge factor, तो इसके केस में जैसे ऑथर ने ये बोला कि विद सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयमेंट यू मे इन्वेंट योर ड्रीम गिग, ड्रीम जॉब जो आप करना चाहते हो वो कर सकते हो, या फिर यू मे सिंपली चेंज द लव व्हाट यू डू पार्ट ऑफ द इक्वेशन. दैट मीन्स दे डिडंट लव. सो जूली एंड पिकिंस का जो ये एग्जांपल बता रहे हैं, दे इन्वेंटेड दैट saline infused kids tissue. This is they were not so passionate about when talking to the author. So it's not like that they loved doing it, but probably they are now starting to, they will get into that. Nonetheless, the second half of the equation, love what you do, is clear for both women. Do what you love. Ocha, they didn't do what you love, but this love what you do is clear for both women. Running their own business has given them incredible autonomy. Before they launched, they hashed out the details of the Boogie Vibes product lines during epic play dates. Now Pickens help her daughters get ready for school in the mornings, then works in the office from 8:30 to 2:45, Monday through Friday. A 4-year-old often joins her around noon after preschool and plays in the office playroom. Yes, they have an office playroom. Why not? Pickens leaves to pick up the other kids around 3 and does some work from home while they do homework. After dinner and bedtime, she fires the laptop back up around 9 o'clock and puts in few more hours. She occasionally comes in on Saturday mornings, but manages to leave at least one weekend day email free. Donnie, who has an infant, works from home slightly more often. After running in the mornings on the treadmill while her kids watch cartoons, she comes into office roughly 3 days a week from 9 to 3. In the afternoon, she works at home while her older kids play outside. The computer goes off during dinner. Then after baths and books and prayers, she puts in another work shift during the evenings, which she does on weekends too. Both women work full-time hours, but since they have complete freedom to choose those hours, they also pack in a lot of family time. They give their dozen employees the same flexibility. We hold employees to the same expectations as ourselves, Donnie says. What I mean by that is that if they need to work at home occasionally, they work at home. We have faith and trust in their ability to get the work done when it needs to be done. They also appreciate being challenged and close to the extent of their abilities. They describe their first 2 years running little busybodies as the equivalent of earning their MBAs. For instance, here's a problem Donnie and Pickens had to solve recently. How do you get a product into Walmart? The answer: you find the right person who knows the inside scoop. You play up the fact that you are a woman owned business. You show up in Bentonville, Arkansas, with a pitch that is not just about the product's efficacy, but about its story as the creation of mompreneurs who are just like the target market moms and who give the products an authenticity modern consumers crave. Most important, you show them how your product will make them money and that you know how to manage your enterprise. Then, when the buyer says yes, you watch your company's sales go north of $55 million in less than 2 years in business. You set a goal to sell the company to a major consumer goods brand in the next 5 years and use the cash to start something else fun, flexible, and as satisfyingly tough as getting dried snot off a wriggling toddler's face. So they did not do what they loved, but they loved what they did.
हम्म,
कंटिन्यू करेंगे?
हाँ थोड़ा सा रह गया है और ज़्यादा नहीं है इसमें 2 पेजेस होना
ठीक
शायद बस ये है
ठीक
उसके बाद नेक्स्ट चैप्टर शुरू होगा विच इज़ वेरी
ओके
इंपॉर्टेंट कंट्रोलिंग योर कैलेंडर
Gut check time. In the busyness of daily life, it is easy to forget to reflect on a life's work and how satisfied you are with the way you are spending the working chunk of your 168 hours. Small frustrations loom large. Donnie and Pickens speak ruefully at the time a retailer imposed an $800 fine because they filled out a form incorrectly. If you get a call like that, the first thing that pops into your head is unlikely to be that this is a minor detail in the reality of running a $5 million business that affords you so much autonomy that you can put an air hockey table in the warehouse of your kids. Likewise, while Sylvia Earle says that her work was never a job, I'm sure that at least once or twice in her career, her equipment broke down, she got sick while traveling, or journalists asked her stupid questions. Anyone else wants to read? Yeah, I'll continue.
Yeah.
Okay. This is why it's a good idea to take a few minutes at the end of the day, perhaps during your spouse conference, see chapter 6, or instead of watching TV, to reflect on what you want your career and life to look like. Then you can reflect on whether what you are doing is close enough to the right job that you can start making small tune-ups to be more efficient and then launch your career to the next level. How do you know for sure that you are in the right job or at least close? I was recently talking about this with Laura Wellington Jerry, creator of The Wumblers, a children's cartoon about sustainable living. She had drawn the Wumblers character in her notebooks as a teenager and kept them in her head all through the years. She ran two other businesses with her husband, but about a decade ago, he was diagnosed with cancer and passed away shortly after September 11, 2001, leaving her as a single mother of four children under age 10. As she attempted to process her children's grief, and that of everyone around her in New Jersey who had lost neighbors in the terrorist attack, she started drawing those cartoon characters again. Feeling she had nothing to lose, she decided to develop them a bit more. She contracted with various people in the entertainment field to turn her vision into reality. And now, many years later, you can purchase Wumbler DVDs and find them on TV. And as spokespeople for the National Watermelon Association, Wumblers conveniently enough hatch from watermelons, something they did before the National Watermelon Association got involved, but which turned out to be a nice marketing tie-in nonetheless. Wellington Jerry is blissfully happy spending her days living in her cartoon character's world. When we talked on the phone, she gushed that if someone offered her $400 million to stop developing their stories, she didn't think she would take it. That much she loved doing what she was doing. I laughed. I mean, she has investors and they would probably force her to take a $400 million buyout. But I do think she's onto something with this idea. If you want to get the most out of your 168 hours, instead of looking for a 4 hour work week, look for work where the $400 million dollar questions would give you pause. If someone offered you $400 million to walk away and never do the stuff of your job again, would you take it? That's a good way to understand whether you like that job that you're doing or not. So she
मैं
loved it
मिस हो
that
गया,
much.
कहाँ पर
I
है?
imagine, Hari,
डगर वाली बात कहाँ पर है? अच्छा, क्या है ये? मैं थोड़ा मिस कर दिया, एक
ये
अर्जेंट
वो
कॉल।
बोल रहे हैं, हाँ, तो वो बोल रहे हैं that she loves doing it so much that when author spoke to her, she was saying that if someone offered her $400 million to stop developing the stories, would she take it? She said, no, no way. So, so that's the same question for us. So she liked doing what she was doing.
एक तरह से अभी एक
I
जो
imagine
मूवी आई
most,
है, साबरमती मूवी आई है ना, हाँ,
हाँ,
साबरमती रिपोर्ट, साबरमती कुछ ऐसे नाम है उसका। तो उसमें भी इसी तरह का है, मतलब कि अगर आपको सच में करना पसंद है तो यू विल डू इट एट एनी कॉस्ट।
I'm yet to see. You have watched it.
हम्म।
Acha. I imagine most people would, even if they love their work. We have families to consider, debts that need to be paid, and many other interests we wouldn't mind pursuing. But perhaps the question is more, would you have to think about it? And would you be grieving despite your ability to buy the San Diego Padres? I'm not sure what San Diego Padres is, but the question is कि अगर जैसे हाँ लोगों के पास डेट होते हैं, फैमिली को चलाना है, वो सब कुछ है, तो ऐसा कुछ हम अगर काम कर रहे हैं जिसके लिए कोई इतने पैसे दे रहा है, would you, even if you love it, will you still give up? I mean, she's telling most people might do it, but would you have to think about it? And would you grieve about it? I imagine most people would, even if yeah. So if you would, then you are on the right track. The next few chapters are about using your work time more effectively so you can ramp up your career even as you are ramping up your family or personal life as well.
यस, बस ये लास्ट ट्रैक है।
Okay. So creating the right job. We spend a lot of our 168 hours working, so being in the right job matters. To find out if you're in the right job, ask yourself these questions. Does my job tap into my intrinsic motivations? Things I loved as a kid or would do for free? The first question is, does my job tap into my intrinsic motivation? That is, things that my heart sings for or I loved as a kid or you would be able to do it for free. Second is, does my job gives me reasonable amount of autonomy? Third is, am I challenged regularly to the extent of my abilities? Fourth is, do my work environment, organization, and co-workers encourage my best work? Most of the time, a fourth itself pushes people to, you know, look at something else that they love. If the answer is no to any of these four questions, what can I change in the next week, in the next year? So basically, your action plan, what actions you can take in the next week, in the next year. Can I create the right job within my organization, another organization, or will I need to go out on my own? If you're pretty sure you're in the right job, then try asking this question. If someone offered me a windfall to never do the stuff of my work again, how would I feel about that? What is a windfall?
Windfall
Could it
means,
be
I think,
not
lot
much
of
money, I
money,
think. Yeah.
बहुत सारा कोई पैसा देते, जैसे वो कहते हैं ना, $40 million समथिंग करके, कुछ वैसे। तो आई थिंक ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पेज है, पेज नंबर 51। ऐसे वैसे भी नोट कर सकते हैं कोई चाहे तो अपने रेफरेंस के लिए, क्योंकि जो भी हमने इतना घुमा घुमा के ऐसे ऐसे एग्जांपल लेके उन्होंने बताया, उसका सारी है।
Finally. Hmm.
तो जो भी सभी सुन रहे हैं, मेरा सभी से कुछ क्वेश्चंस हैं, अगर सभी वीडियो ऑन कर सकते हैं तो। कि इसमें से काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें ऐसी होती होंगी, काफ़ी टर्म्स ऐसे होते होंगे जो बिल्कुल समझ में नहीं आता होगा। तो फिर क्या लगता है आपको, क्या बेनिफिट है आधा घंटा इसमें लेने का या 40 मिनट देने का? सभी से यही क्वेश्चन है। तो तेर जी, वैशाली जी, अश्विनी जी, क्या कहना है? श्रेया?
एक्चुअली
लॉजिकल
भाई जी,
लगा ना कि अभी
मेरी
कुछ
आवाज
समझ
आ
में
रही है?
नहीं आ रहा है, पता नहीं क्या क्या चल रहा है ये। तो बताओ।
मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
आ तो रही है, पर वैसी आ रही है जैसे दूर से आती है।
वो फरिश्ता रूप में दिख रहे हैं।
एक्चुअली मेरा ये था ना कि है तो बुक इंग्लिश में, लेकिन जो आप हिंदी में भी समराइज करते हैं, एक्सप्लेन करते हैं, तो उसमें मैं ना कीवर्ड्स जैसे यूज करता हूँ। जैसे अभी आपने जॉब के जो आपने टॉपिक दिया है, जॉब से रिलेटेड कुछ था कि आप हम जॉब करते हैं, तो मुझे ये समझ में आया कि ये मेरे लिए बहुत हेल्पफुल है। तो मुझे कुछ आइडिया मिलेगा कि मैं अपना जो प्रेजेंट टाइम में जो कर रहा हूँ, उसके अलावा भी मैं और जगह कहीं ट्राई कैसे कर सकता हूँ, कैसे अच्छा कर सकता हूँ। तो मैं ये समझ पा रहा था।
मान लो कि जो हम थोड़ा बहुत हिंदी में बीच में डिस्कस करते हैं, सपोज वो ना करें, मान लो कल से हम ना करें, तो फिर आपको क्या लगता है, फिर आप इस सेशन में होगे? जैसे वो जॉब का पूछ रहे हैं, वैसे हम सेशन का पूछ रहे हैं। इज दिस द राइट
थोड़ा
सेशन?
सा प्रॉब्लम।
सोचो, बताओ इसमें लेटेंट बेनिफिट्स क्या हैं? देखो, मैनिफेस्ट फंक्शन तो ये है रीडिंग का कि जो कंटेंट है वो हमें समझ में आ जाए। लेटेंट बेनिफिट ये है जैसे कि जब कोई पढ़ रहा है, तो कई बार हम इंग्लिश बोलने में क्यों हिचकिचाते हैं, क्योंकि हमें बहुत सारे वर्ड्स के राइट प्रोनाउंसिएशन पता नहीं है कि ये कैसे बोला जाना चाहिए। तो अगर हम डेली ये प्रैक्टिस करा रहे हैं, एक तरह से अपने मन को हम उस ट्रेडमिल पे चला रहे हैं कि कोई और तो पढ़ रहा है, हम उसे सुन रहे हैं, तो भी हमें ये तो पता चलेगा ना कि ये वर्ड ऐसे बोला जाता है। क्या ये अपने आप में एक स्टेप ऊपर नहीं है, अगर हम ध्यान दें तो? जैसे ट्रेडमिल पे चलते हैं, तो ट्रेडमिल चल रहा है, उस पर हम चलते हैं ऊपर। ऐसे ही ये भी तो एक ट्रेडमिल चल रहा है, ऑडियो बुक को भी मैं ट्रेडमिल ही कहता हूँ लर्निंग का। तो ऑडियो बुक की तरह कोई पढ़ रहा है जिसमें ह्यूमन इंटरेक्शन भी है, तो उससे अगर हम ध्यान से सुनते जाएं कि ये कैसे पढ़ रहे हैं, तो ये फिर भी एक कॉन्शियस चॉइस हो सकती है, लेकिन इसमें बहुत सारे सबकॉन्शियस और लेटेंट बेनिफिट और भी हैं। कि ये बंदा जो पढ़ रहा है ये कहाँ पे पॉज ले रहा है, कोमा पे कैसे रुकता है, फुल स्टॉप पे कैसे रुकता है। जैसे भी पिनाकी जी पढ़ रहे थे, तो किसी वर्ड पे वो कैसे एम्फेसाइज कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि जिनका एनएलपी का बैकग्राउंड है वो जो भी करते हैं वो बहुत ध्यान से करते हैं। तो एक एक बात में लर्निंग की बात है, तो सिर्फ ये बुक की रीडिंग की बात नहीं है। बहुत सारी चीज़ें ऐसी हैं कि अगर हम इसमें आके थोड़ा सा भी अटेंशन से बैठेंगे, तो सबकॉन्शियस लर्निंग हमारी बहुत हो जाएगी। अब भले हमें पता नहीं चलेगा, हम ऐसे कॉन्शियसली प्रोसेस नहीं करेंगे कि ये फुल स्टॉप इन्होंने कहाँ लिया, लेकिन हमें खुद ही समझ में आता जाएगा कि अभी हम कुछ सोच सोच के थोड़ी फुल स्टॉप लेते हैं। वो तो अनकॉन्शियस कॉम्पिटेंस बन गई है करते करते। इसलिए कभी भी किसी के मन में डाउट आता है तो अपने आप को हम ऐसे आंसर कर सकते हैं कि बहुत सारे लेटेंट बेनिफिट हैं, सबकॉन्शियस बेनिफिट हैं। एक बेनिफिट ये भी है फिर, कुछ टर्म्स ऐसे आते हैं जो लगता है कि हाँ ये सुना हुआ लग रहा है और बार बार आता भी है, पर उसका मीनिंग मुझे पता नहीं है। उन वर्ड्स को जरूर नोट करना है जो बार बार आते हैं, सुने हुए लगते हैं, पर एग्जैक्टली मीनिंग नहीं पता है। तो दीज वर्ड्स आर इंपॉर्टेंट, क्योंकि ये बार बार तो आ ही रहे हैं। और जो कभी कभार ही आ रहा है, पहली बार आ रहा है, उसे छोड़ देंगे तो भी कोई इतनी बड़ी दिक्कत नहीं है।
और भाई जी मैं एक ऐड करना चाहूंगी।
जी।
और फिर वार्म अप सेशन हो जाता है, फोकस के पहले थोड़ा सा
हम्म।
वार्म अप हो जाता है थोड़ा, क्योंकि फोकस में एकदम बैठ के फोकस इतना
अभी
आदत
अभी
नहीं
हम
है
वार्म
तो।
अप के और प्लान भी बना रहे हैं बहुत सारे। ये तो मॉर्निंग वार्म अप है, इवनिंग वार्म अप भी होगा। एनएलपी बुक क्लब, जिसमें सिर्फ हम एनएलपी की बुक्स पढ़ेंगे। लेट अस सी, थोड़ा मैं उसको भी और सोच रहा था कैसे होगा, लेकिन अभी बात चल गई तो फिर मैंने शेयर कर दिया।
पर भाई जी एनएलपी ठीक है बाद में।
ओके, जस्ट गिव मी 1 मिनट।
नहीं करना पड़ा इधर उधर।
हाँ जी।
उसका बैंक बनाना है, वही बोल रहे थे ना राहुल भाई, हु विल इनिशिएट।
किसका?
कीवर्ड्स की बात कर रहे थे हम, जो
हम्म।
हमारे ग्रुप में चल रहा है अभी।
हम्म। तो सभी कर ही रहे हैं वैसे, तो भी अच्छा है। तो ऐसे छोटे छोटे इनिशिएटिव जो डेली बेसिस पे कर सकें, ताकि करने में बहुत ज़्यादा मेहनत भी ना हो, लेकिन उससे मोमेंटम भी बना रहता है। तो एनएलपी बुक क्लब में कौन कौन इंटरेस्टेड होंगे पढ़ने में?
भाई जी एनएलपी का मतलब एनएलपी का थोड़ा बहुत तो ज्ञान होना चाहिए ना।
कुछ बड़ी
तो
चीज़ नहीं है,
एकदम।
बहुत सारे लोगों ने इसको कॉम्प्लेक्स बना दिया है, सिंपल चीज़ें हैं। वैसे इसकी फुल फॉर्म है न्यूरो लिंग्विस्टिक प्रोग्रामिंग।
हाँ
और अगर
वो तो पता है, मतलब ये
अपन भाषा में कहें तो
इतना ही पता है।
ये है स्टडी ऑफ एक्सेलेंस, ऐसे भी कह सकते हैं। और भी बहुत सारे तरीके हैं कहने के, ये डिपेंड करता है कैसी ऑडियंस है, किसको क्या बताना है।
तो ये कब होगा, कितने बजे होगा, रोज होगा क्या, कैसे रहेगा?
तो इस पे हम या तो इवनिंग वाले सेशन में डिस्कस कर लेंगे आज, क्योंकि रोज़ तो प्रैक्टिकल नहीं है। जैसे मंडे और थर्सडे को अपना सेशन होता ही है, देखते हैं, कुछ सोच रहे हैं हम ऐसा। श्रेया, आपने सुना है नाम कभी एनएलपी का? कैसे सुना है,
हाँ
कहाँ
सुना
सुना है?
है।
कितना सुना है, क्या सुना है इसके बारे में?
ये प्रोग्राम जो था मैंने अपनी स्टडीज में सुना था कि लैंग्वेज के ऊपर काम करता है ये, लैंग्वेज के ऊपर, लर्निंग के ऊपर। और साथ ही साथ डीपली नहीं उतना पता मुझे इसके बारे में, बट मैंने इसको थोड़ा बहुत पढ़ा है।
एनएलपी के दो कॉन्टेक्स्ट हैं, एक तो ये यूज़ होता है कंप्यूटर्स वगैरह में, नेचुरल लैंग्वेज प्रोसेसिंग। और जो हम बात कर रहे हैं वो है साइकोलॉजी में, न्यूरो लिंग्विस्टिक प्रोग्रामिंग। तो आपने किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में सुना है?
साइकोलॉजी में।
ग्रेट, अच्छा है, सुना है तो अच्छी बात है। तो आप इंटरेस्टेड हो इसके बारे में और जानने के लिए?
हाँ।
तो आज आप 8:30 पे ज्वाइन करना सेशन। अश्विनी भाई आपको शेयर कर देंगे डिटेल। तो बाकी सबको पता हो कि श्रेया जी इज सिस्टर ऑफ अश्विनी भाई। तो अच्छी बात है। तो शाम को हम डिस्कस करेंगे
हेलो
इसके।
श्रेया जी, वेलकम टू द ग्रुप।
थैंक यू।
हेलो श्रेया जी।
थैंक यू
कैसे
जी।
आप?
देखो अभी से आपको कितना वो मिल रहा है कि आओ आओ, वेलकम वेलकम। तो अच्छी बात है। तो इट्स लाइक ए फैमिली ओनली। तो फील फ्री टू कम टुडे इवनिंग एंड वी विल डिस्कस। अभी हम फोकस सेशन करते हैं, ठीक है?